This is Michael Woodward, and this is Season 2, Episode 36 of the Jumblethink Podcast.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumblethink Podcast. We explore the ideas and dreams behind some of the leading entrepreneurs from around the world. Along the way, we will give you some tips and ideas of how you can chase your own big ideas and dreams and change the world around you. Our guest on today's episode is Julie Broad. More about Julie in a moment. On Thursday's episode, we're diving deep into the world of motivation. What motivates us as entrepreneurs? What causes us to take our dreams and our ideas and move them into reality? Motivation can be a tricky thing to define and to use for our benefit as entrepreneurs. So we're going to dive deep into the world of motivation and how you can utilize it to make your dreams and ideas become a reality. Now let's jump into today's episode. Hey there, welcome to the Jumblethink Podcast. My name is Michael Woodward. I am your host, and I'm so excited you've chosen to join us for today's episode with Julie Broad. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to encourage you, wherever you listen to podcasts, click that subscribe button. You can find us on all the normal places you listen to podcasts, places like Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and so many other places. So wherever you like to listen to podcasts, go click that subscribe button and let's connect up. Now let's take a moment to learn more about today's guest, Julie Broad.
My name is Julie Broad, and my company is Book Launchers, and I am the founder, which means that I run the company, but I also do pretty much any job that I haven't hired someone else to do so far. Book Launchers is a company that helps entrepreneurs and professionals write, publish, and sell nonfiction books, primarily with a business goal. We do work with people who have want to do memoirs and those kind of things. But our typical client wants to use their book as a platform to grow their business, to get paid speaking gigs, to get media, to attract new clients, and to share an important message that they really feel needs to be out in the world. My big idea was that I didn't want to work for somebody else. And I've been doing a variety of things since 2001 when I realized that I really didn't want to have a long life of working for someone else. But Book Launchers really formed in my head after self-publishing a couple of books and realizing the tremendous benefits and the enormous challenges of doing it. And also I realized that I wanted to have a company that serviced people, that wasn't a coaching or training company. I really wanted to just have people be able to go, here's my book idea, help me do everything to get it to market. And having a great team to do that really was kind of an epiphany versus just teaching people how to do it. Ooh, how I find significance or purpose in what I do is it's different every day because I really try to just help people in different ways. And so I guess at the end of the day, it all comes back to helping people, really having an impact. But, some days it's as simple as, guiding them towards doing something that's not with my company because it's a better fit for them. Other times it's just being kind to others, just smiling to somebody or sitting there and listening to their story, whether I'll ever work with them or not. I think that it's just, pay it forward, be kind, and it always comes back. But really helping people produce great books that help them grow their business and get an important message out in the world, that's tremendously fulfilling and a lot of fun too. I get to hear all kinds of stories and unique perspectives on things. What I do matters, I think, for a lot of reasons. One is that there's a tremendous amount of, I guess I'm going to say it. There's scams. There's scams and there's hokey practices in the self-publishing industry. There's, the prevalence of, the guarantee that you'll be an award or the guarantee that you'll be a best-selling author. People spend a lot of money on these kind of ego-driven things that really don't achieve their goals. You might be able to say I'm an Amazon bestseller, but your book actually isn't selling, and your message isn't getting out there, and so you're not actually serving the purpose that you set out to create that book for. And so I really feel driven to help people in really creating a book that will grow their business, that will get them out there and get their message out. They'll be able to raise their prices. Media will want to talk to them. And so I think there's so many issues in the industry that I really set out to help fix and create a great solution for folks. A challenge for me right now is that we're still new. And so we don't have an extensive track record. The people on my team have extensive track records. We have an Emmy nominated writer. We have editors who've worked on hundreds of books, ghostwriters who've written, Wall Street Journal bestsellers and all those kind of stats. But as a company, we don't have an extensive track record. And that's always challenging because you're kind of waiting to create all these great success stories, but also trying to get people to buy into working with a company that doesn't have a track record. So that's kind of the biggest challenge at the moment. Right now, I'm really focused in startup mode. So I'm really trying to create massive, massive success stories for my clients. And that is my primary goal and pretty much my only goal other than being profitable.
In a moment, we'll return with our interview segment for today's episode with Julie Broad. Before we jump into the interview with Julie, I want to encourage you, swing on over to jumblethink.com/guide and check out the 2 free guides we're currently offering on our website. The first guide is how to know when you found your dream, and the second guide is overcoming the unknown. Both of these guides will help you on your journey of chasing that entrepreneurial dream you have and changing the world around you. So swing on over to jumblethink.com/guide. That's jumblethink.com/guide and download your free guides. Now let's join our interview with Julie Broad. Our guest today is Julie Broad. I am so excited to have you on the podcast. Thanks for taking time out.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Now, you have been on an entrepreneurial journey, I think you said since like around 2001, trying different things, exploring different things. I know that you've worked in the world of real estate. You've worked in the world of writing your own books. And you are also now helping others achieve that same success that you have had with your books. Tell us a little bit about that backstory of when you knew that I didn't want to go work for somebody else, when you knew that, hey, maybe there's a different path that I can take to create the world I want to live in and do the things I am passionate about. So how'd that start for you?
Yeah, for sure. The first kind of moment was 2001 when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I kind of realized that I didn't want to spend my whole life working hard for money and that I had to do something to get money working for me, which was what got me into real estate. So I had a job at the time and I didn't really think I was going to not work for somebody for a while, but I wanted to have a backup plan.
Right.
And so that's really what got me into investing in real estate. And I bought a couple of properties that year. I had savings because I was going to go back to school to do my MBA, which I still did. But I did my MBA fully on student loans and used the cash that I'd been saving for my MBA to purchase my first 2 rental properties.
Okay.
And my boyfriend at the time, kind of came along for the ride and actually really liked it too. And so we ended up starting to buy a whole bunch of properties. So that, in the next 18 months after that, we bought 5 more and just kind of kept going from there. And so by 2008, we had I don't know, a dozen properties or so. And I reached a point in my job where I just couldn't work for somebody else anymore. There was a meeting where we were doing our annual planning and my boss slid this sheet of paper across the boardroom table to me and said, here are your 3 objectives and below are the 5 ways that you're going to achieve those objectives. And
Wow.
I just thought, I had done all this annual planning. I was a vice president of sales for that company. And I'd done all this planning for this meeting and nothing from my plan was on this sheet of paper. And I just thought, so I'm 100% accountable for these 3 things, but I have 0 control over how I'm going to achieve them.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like this lightning bolt. And I just thought, I can't do this anymore. And I walked out of there and called my husband. We'd actually just gotten married at the time. And I called him and I said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And he knew that didn't mean I was quitting my job to go find another job. He knew that meant I was quitting my job to go out on my own.
Yeah.
And you kind of think, okay, well, you're married. It wasn't a big deal. This was 2008.
Yeah.
And real estate was our backup plan, right?
Right.
So 2008, if you don't know the history, is when everything fell apart.
Right. Yes. Yes.
It was the complete bank crisis. And so I couldn't have picked a worse time to have real estate as my backup. And my husband, so people were like, yeah, but thank goodness your husband had a job. My husband was a commercial mortgage broker.
Oh, wow.
Which
Okay.
means he was 100% commission
Yeah.
in an environment where there was 0 lending going on.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So my job was our bread at the time, and
Wow.
so here I was calling him and saying I was leaving. So it was a rocky start, to be sure, but that was how I entered the world of being a full time entrepreneur, and from there, I got into books probably in 2013 after writing about all of this, right? Writing about surviving the 2008 crisis as a real estate investor and building a real estate training and education company from that. So there's a bit of background for you.
So you talked about writing on that and kind of diving into that a little bit further. Was that the book More Than Cash Flow?
Yes, exactly. And interestingly about that book, so as I built a profile across Canada, as I was building, originally I live in LA right now, but I started to build a profile across Canada because we were raising money for our deals, and it was very useful to have credibility and a profile to raise money. It
Right.
made it a lot more
Right.
effective. And then, of course, I was also running courses and workshops to help people invest in real estate. So having a profile helped with that. And through that, I started to have contact with some publishers who were interested in working with me for a book. Wiley was really the one that made the most sense. And so we went back and forth for about 3 months. And I had given him this More Than Cash Flow book idea that I had. And they said, no, no, like another generic real estate book on the market. We don't need that. It won't sell. And then they said, why don't you write a book about real estate investing for couples? Which I thought, I didn't really feel, even though we'd been investing together, I didn't really feel like the expert, nor did I really care to talk about
Right.
that.
Right.
But book deal. So I went back and forth with them for several months, creating this proposal and kind of creating all these marketing plans. And in the end, they came back and they said, "Nah, the marketing department doesn't think you will sell enough books." And it was
Wow.
like it was rejecting me completely. Right? um, so
Wow.
so I was my ego took a real hit, and it took me about a year to recover, truthfully. But
Oh,
when I did
crazy.
recover, I wrote the book that I thought should have been written in the first place. And my book was really about the real story. So it's not just, how to make $1 million in real estate, which was kind of the go-to at the time. It's really the real stories, like some of the bad tenant stories, some of the, bad partners, challenges we faced with neighbors that didn't like what we were doing with the houses and all of that kind of stuff. And that book, when I launched it, it went to #1 overall on Amazon. So it was ahead of Dan Brown and ahead of the Game of Thrones series, which I love because Wiley told me I couldn't sell books.
Right. Right. Right.
But so many people wanted to support it because it was a real message. They
Yeah.
were like, "Yeah, people need to hear this before they get into real estate, so they know what they're getting into." And that really got me headfirst into self-publishing, but also the book world, and really understanding all of the ins and outs of the good and bad of traditional publishing, and realizing that I actually not getting a traditional publishing deal was the best thing that could have happened. I made way more money, like obscenely more money, on my own than if I had had the
Yeah.
publishing deal. And I had way more flexibility and freedom with what I could do with the book. And I own it. Like that's the big thing that people don't realize is if you do a publishing deal, they own that content, and
Wow.
you lose a
Wow.
lot of the control over what you can do with it. And I did all kinds of things with my book that I never could have done had I had a traditional publishing deal.
That's so crazy. And when you're talking, one of the things that stood out to me as you were sharing was that you were brought this concept that was like, hey, here's what you really should be writing about. But when you went back to that core message of the thing that was burning inside of you, the message that you knew was authentic to you, that's what really resonated with others. Talk about that a little bit, and how so often we buy into this is what I should be doing, or this is the message I should be sharing, or these are the words I should be saying, versus what's really burning inside, and how you spent that year in processing and overcoming the rejection and were able to find your own voice in that.
Yeah, I mean this is such an important subject. For me, it took me even after I wrote the book, I still wasn't fully and I don't think I'll ever be at the point where I can be completely myself and not worry
Wow.
about what people think. Because it's just
Wow.
inherent. It's inherent in us to worry about what other people think. But here's the interesting part that I've learned over the years in my own journey, but also in working with other people, is that a lot of us feel like there's things that we need to say, and we hold back because we're worried we won't fit in, or we're worried about backlash. I have quite a few financial planners that are working on books right now. And their book, if they would just say what they really want to say about their industry, it would be so powerful. But they're so scared of backlash that they're toning it down. And I think that their books will still have impact. But if they would just come right out with exactly what they're thinking, exactly what they're feeling, I think that they would immediately become a household name. And yes, some people would hate them. Like absolutely, some people would hate them, and that's
Right.
what they're afraid of. But you're going to polarize, and by polarizing you're going to have rabid fans, right? So you
Yeah.
can't worry about the people who are going to hate you or really be up in arms that you said this. You really have to focus on who you really want to help and what message is going to help them. And I think when you do that, it gets easier, but it's still hard. And at the end of the day, you have to be able to sleep at night. And so if this is going to stress you out, if being completely you is going to stress you out to the point you can't sleep, well, you kind of have to make your own resolutions there. But I've found that if you feel like you've got a powerful message in you and you're holding back for fear, I find that, with this book, there was people in my family that didn't know some of the things we'd gone through. There was certainly clients that were coming to us for coaching that had no idea the mess we'd made of things. And so coming out and sharing that was terrifying because I thought we would
Right.
lose business. I thought my family would judge us. And the opposite happened. And yeah, I got some backlash. I had some 1-star reviews on Amazon and things like that. But, the overwhelming response was massive support, and business like catapult, like just shot up from there. Tremendous things happened. And so that really gave me more courage to just be more myself and speak out more. And I think the more you do it and the more you get rewarded, the more comfortable you will be doing it.
And what you're really talking about at the deeper level is crafting a message that matters, that has significance, that has purpose, that does more than the typical self-help or typical teaching book does, where it's just kind of glossing over the deeper underlying story of what's going on. How can you, as not you specifically, but us, how can we really start to unpackage the message that really resonates for us so we can start sharing that message with, whether it's a client, whether it's our family, whether it's a larger social sphere? How can we begin to craft messages that matter?
I think you have to do self work. I
Okay.
really think that you have to dig in, and most of us can't do it on our own. I think you need help to do it. And so, for me, Philip McKernan is who I worked with a lot. He does a lot of events, and he has a few books out as well. I was lucky enough to as a friend, so that. But he was very helpful in just asking good questions to help me see things I didn't see for myself. At our company, what we do is we have a writing coach, and he says his job is half writing coach, half psychologist. So I mean, he kind of asks a lot of these questions as well, just to make sure that you're digging deeper in and kind of looking at the challenges you've faced and the good things you've faced, and that you're pulling the lessons out of them to create that message.
Your specific space that you're operating in, of course, is using books to get your message out, to use it to help promote what you're doing as a business and your personal brand. And there's so many different ways we can do that now with, of course, like this podcast, and there's, the YouTube sensations. Why are books a powerful tool for brand building?
Ooh, I think the biggest reason is their longevity.
Okay.
So they last a long, long, long time, right? People don't throw books out
Yeah.
unless it's really crap. They just won't throw it out. It might go to the library, they might donate it, they might give it away, but that's great because your message just keeps getting spread around, and it sits on your shelf, and other people will see it. Ebooks are a little different, but still 70% of nonfiction books, which is what we're doing, are still purchased in print. So it's a long shelf life. It also has tremendous value. So while I don't necessarily look at it as a marketing piece, it is marketing for you and for your business and growing your brand. And it's something that you can do a lot of things with, right? You can sell them at the back of the room. You can make exchanges with event organizers to maybe speak and have them buy a copy for everybody in the room. You can do trades with businesses. So maybe there's something you recommend in your book. Now that company might buy your book or even just get copies of it from you to now promote to all of their audience. So there's so many opportunities with a book that just doesn't exist in other platforms. But if you have other platforms like a podcast or a blog, this is a great way to just cross promote, and build, because there's people that would be listening to your podcast that might not know about your book but would love to read it, and vice versa. So now you've just got another way to reach more people. So yeah, the benefits are absolutely enormous. But the one thing you don't really truly understand until you get the right book out there is it opens doors to media, TV. Two equal people, they're going to go with the person who's written the book every single time. And
Wow.
it's similar for speaking engagements. If you talk to event planners, in fact, a lot of the forms that you fill out to submit for speaking submissions ask you, what books have you written? They don't
Wow.
say, have you written a book? It's what books have you written?
It's expected. It's expected. Yeah.
It is expected that if you are on their stage, that you have written a book,
Okay.
so that they can actually say, this is, when they're introducing you, this is the author of XYZ, which is way better than saying so and so has a degree, right? It
Yeah.
catapults your credibility in the eyes of people, whether they ever look at your book or not.
Well, I can imagine that it's probably not good enough just to write a book, but the book has to actually be of value and have some depth to it and be crafted well. How can a person start that process if they're going, hey, this sounds cool? Maybe I should write that book about my industry or about my specialty. How can they really start crafting a book that has value, that has all the fundamentals of being a solid book that is marketable?
Yeah, for sure. And actually, you've kind of hit on one of my pet peeves is people say, oh, yeah, the book is the business card. And I'm like, if you've done a good book, it is so much better than any business cards. I mean, anybody can print a business card.
Right.
So this question is actually, I think, one of the most difficult parts of a book, and a part that a lot of people don't do well. And that is really sitting down and figuring out what your hook is going to be. And what you have to do with that is you have to do some research. You have to figure out what other books are on the market. What are people typically saying? And look at that and go, what do you not agree with? What do you say that's different? And what's in your background that makes you unique? And it doesn't mean you have to have done a whole bunch of things, and because a lot of people think I need to create all this success before I can write a book. And I disagree, because I think, first of all, if there's something I want to learn, I don't need to go learn it from the person who has $1 billion doing what I want to do. I want to go learn from somebody who's just far enough ahead of me that they've overcome the obstacle, and I can learn exactly what I need to do today. And if you're still thinking I don't have enough, then go interview some people to fill in the gaps. Go find those experts and fill in the gaps. So those are kind of some of the things to think about, but you got to come up with that hook initially. So what makes you unique? What is going to be different about your book? And you really got to focus on what's in it for the reader. So
Yeah.
what's going to make them prettier, skinnier, richer, happier, sleep better? Like, what's going to make, you have to serve them in some way. And how are you going to serve them in a way that's different and that's going to make them go, I need to read this right now? Because you don't want people to go, I'm going to put that on my list, right? You hear that all the time. It
Yeah.
has to be something
Yeah.
so juicy that they go, I got to read your book right now.
Well, and I think of people like Malcolm Gladwell, who of course is a rock star in the world of writing. And what interests me about him, of course, is his books are incredible, but a lot of times they simply start out as questions he wants answered,
Exactly.
things that he's been thinking about. And I love that you brought that up, that you don't have to be the expert to write a book about X subject. You have to have a passion, a desire, and an intentional purpose to learn about that thing. And through that process, you become the expert. I mean, you look at so many of Gladwell's books, and now he is the expert in that space, not because he was the expert going in, but because he's done the research, he's done the due diligence, he's crafted the narrative, and he's put out a book that answered the questions he started out with. And I think what you're sharing there is so powerful, because I think even those rock star people who have successful businesses, they get to a point where they go, I should write a book, but I'm just not good enough. I don't measure up. Maybe I'm not as good as somebody else in my industry. And that becomes the stumbling block. So even the experts seem to get hung up with these things that they don't feel like they measure up, that they're not good enough. But what it sounds like you're really saying is that, one, it's a good way to learn, but two, it's also a way to, if you push into it, it's a way to explore the possibilities and open up avenues to a future that you don't even know exists yet.
Exactly. Very well summarized.
We've found that thing we're going to write about. We've crafted the book. We've worked with maybe some editors or people that helped coach along the way. I can't imagine that just putting a book out there and saying, hey, it's on Amazon is good enough. How do you get that book to have the mass appeal or be a bestseller like your book has been?
Yeah. So, I mean, we start at the beginning. So we are planning the marketing the minute somebody comes to us with a book idea or a rough draft of a manuscript. And I think that's really important is before you even write your book, know who's going to be reading it
Okay.
and know where you can find them.
Right.
Because if you can't clearly, I have a lot of people, and I say this because we're talking passion. I have a lot of people who come to me and they say, I have a message to share. My story will help people. I'm like, great. What people? They're like, people like me.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, but people like you. So where am I going to find people like you?
Yeah.
Because I mean, when you say people like me, what specifically are you talking about? Like I do CrossFit. So are you talking about my CrossFit interest? Or are you talking about my entrepreneurial interest? Or are you talking about being a new mom?
Right. Yeah.
Like there's so many aspects that would make other people like me. So do you mean all of those things? Because I don't know how to find people who are exactly like that.
Right. Yeah.
So you really got to know exactly who is your ideal reader and how we're going to find them. So, because I had one person talk to me who she had a rough childhood, and she said, "Well, I want to help people like me." And I'm like, "Okay, well, where are you going to find people like you to share this message?" And she had no idea. And I said, "So if you don't know how to find them or where they are or who they are, then it's going to be really hard to know exactly how to help them in your book." So that's really, really important is to start off knowing who is your ideal reader and how exactly you help them and what they need to hear and what they want to hear. And if you start with that at the beginning, you set yourself up for marketing success at the end because you're going to know when your book is done, you're going to know what associations to reach out to. You're going to know where these people are finding their books in the first place. Is it online? And if it's online, what are they searching for? Because you need to have that metadata in your description and in your tags and the categories and all those kind of things. So it really, really starts at the beginning to have it be effective. And then for us, what we always recommend is you can spend money on ads, and advertising on Amazon does work. But I like to always, I prefer not to spend money. I always feel like I'm donating to these companies when I do ads, right? I feel like I donate to Facebook on a daily basis because I'm running ads that don't seem to do anything. So me personally, I don't like to run ads. I like to focus on finding where the people are hanging out and get in front of them in mass ways. So by that, it's getting in front of the associations. It's podcasts, finding the podcasts that your listeners or your ideal reader is listening to, those kind of things. And that's really what we help our clients to do too, and pitch them to do all the hard work of getting them actually in front of those people.
Well, I want to come a little bit full circle. And part of your story is that you went the traditional publishing route. That didn't work out, and then you self-published. Can you share a little bit more of the difference between working with a publisher versus self-publishing? And then I guess a great follow-up question to that is, where do you fit? Are you a publisher, or how do you operate in that space?
Yeah, really good questions. So the traditional publishing space, I mean, to me, it's a broken model. If anybody listening has been in the music industry or knows of the music industry, the publishing industry is really just lagging behind that. The big thing to me is here's how I summarize it, and this isn't 100% true in 100% of the cases, but for the average author, this is true. The publisher will pay you nothing up front. They expect you to write the book or hire your own ghostwriter to write the book, which a lot of people hire ghostwriters, by the way. Many celebrities, all those celebrities and most of the CEOs who've quote unquote written a book have hired a ghostwriter.
Yes.
One celebrity says, "I don't do my own typing," right? But the publisher, for the average author, the publisher is looking to you to fully do all of that. They will edit the book. They'll often tell you can't have that title or you can't have that concept, as I was explaining was happening to me. So they'll drive some of your message, and they'll drive some of that content. They often will stick you with a cover that you aren't happy with. I hear that all the time from authors. I think about 70% of people aren't happy with the cover that they get stuck with, or even the title they get stuck with.
Wow.
But they do all the middle work. So they take the risk in that, there's probably, if you're doing a book at the same quality as a traditional published book, you're looking at somewhere between $5,000 to $10,000 in editing, design, layout, all of that kind of stuff in between. So the publisher pays for that. That's the big advantage, is you don't have the outlay of cost in the middle.
Right.
And at the end, a lot of people think the publisher is going to market your book. But again, for the average author, they don't allocate any marketing money to you.
Wow. That's
100%
crazy.
of the marketing onus is on you. And here's the crazier part. They're going to keep 85% of the profits.
Wow.
So you get 15% in exchange for doing probably 80% of the work. So, like, to me, it's really backwards. It's really messed up. And so if you work really hard and market the heck out of this book, then you're going to make 15%. So if you want to put this in real world dollars, I haven't done the math in a while, but my book, More Than Cash Flow, that we were talking about, within, I think, 3.5 years, I had made, just on bookstore sales and Amazon sales, $63,000
Okay.
in my pocket from the book.
Yeah.
If I had done the traditional publishing deal, we estimated I would have made somewhere between $7,200 and $9,000.
So 10% almost, or a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah, like it's a little bit more than that. So that was roughly what we estimated, and it's not sure because I never actually got the contract, but just based on what my friends got deals in. And most of my friends had to buy copies of their book from the publisher in order to guarantee their deal. This isn't
Wow.
always the case, but again, if you're an unknown name and they're taking a risk on you, sometimes they'll require you to buy 1,000 copies. So believe me, I had a lot of free real estate books to give away to people because I had a lot of real estate friends that got book deals that had to buy 1,000 copies. So that's the traditional publishing model. Typical, again, there's always exceptions, but to me, the self-publishing route, the drawback of it is that it's a pain in the ass. And you have to hire all these pieces. If you want a book that's the same quality as you would get from a traditional publisher, you're looking at having at least 2 editors working on your book. You need an interior designer, you need a cover designer, and then you're going to have to figure out the distribution part all yourself,
Okay.
which is a pain. So
Yeah.
that is the drawback, is that it's a gigantic pain in the butt. The win is you keep 100% of the money and you have full control, which I think
Right.
for entrepreneurs is the most important piece, is you
Okay.
own that content. You can do whatever you want. If you want to give it away for free, you can. If you want to do a wholesale deal with a company, you can. If you want to sell books in exchange for a speaking engagement, you can make all the profits. So you have so much more flexibility. My company, it takes the issues out of being the self-published. So you're fully independent. You keep all money. I'm not a publisher. We set you up to be the publisher. So you have full control and full ownership of your book. We just do everything the traditional publisher would do. Plus, we actually help you market your book.
Very cool. So you would help with the editing process. You'd help with some of the design elements. You'd help. You mentioned that you have a guy that works, and he's part kind of coach and part kind of psychologist through the
Yes.
process of that. So you kind of help do the unknown part. Somebody might have a great concept, they might have a great idea, they might have good knowledge, but they don't know how to craft everything in between. So your team helps them put all of those pieces together so that when they take it to market, they have something that is marketable to sell, really.
Exactly. We start at the very beginning. So like I said, whatever phase you come to us, we're always going, okay, who's the ideal reader? How are we going to find them? What do they need to hear? And
Right.
that whole goal. And we're always trying to think, what do you want to do with your book too? Do you want to turn it into a TV deal? Do you want to turn it into media opportunities or speaking engagements? So we always keep your goal in mind too through every phase. So the writing coach is working with you to make sure the book is going to be interesting to other people. Then when it goes to editing, we're making sure that you've done everything you need to do to capture your audience and even to help grow your business, that you've got lead magnets built in, you've got opt-in offers, things like that built into your book so that it grows your business. And so we're always working through every phase. But yeah, we have the full team, multiple editors. We have everybody who does everything in between all the way through to the end. And there's somebody that project manages your whole book project too. And then at the end, we have book marketing specialists who actually will do your press release, but then actually pitch you to some media, pitch you to podcasters, try and find bulk sale opportunities. And she worked as a booking agent for speakers and for a literary company for 10 years. So she's done a
Wow.
lot of this kind of
Wow.
pitching. So that's what she does on your book at the end to help you get your book out there, help you create some momentum out of your launch. Because that is the thing. Once it's on Amazon with the right metadata, if you create great momentum out of the start and then show over time that you can generate sales, Amazon will show your book to more and more people. And so
Wow.
eventually you'll still have sales and be doing nothing, which is the situation I'm in. I don't do anything to promote my book, and it still sells because Amazon shows it, right? If you're converting, Amazon's going to keep showing it to other people that
Right.
bought the book similar,
Right.
so that they keep selling because that's what they care about is making money.
Absolutely. So speaking of cost and making money, how much are we talking to use your kind of services? Like, what does that look like?
It depends. We're monthly, so we're membership. So as long as you are working with us, our one professional works on your book. Comparable companies to what we offer, they're charging somewhere between $20,000 to $30,000 for what we do. But right now, we're still a new company, so we're around $700 to $800 a month. So most of our
Okay.
clients will take 9 to 15 months. So we're about half the cost. Depending on when you listen to this, we might be more than that because that's my goal is to create massive, massive success stories for our clients and then raise our prices to a more profitable place.
Before we wrap up this segment, I want to make sure that people know how they can connect and find you. How can they connect and find you?
Yeah, you bet. Booklaunchers.com is our website, and there's a great resource on there for anybody interested in learning how to sell books. So if you go to booklaunchers.com/sell books, it's a game plan for 8 ways to sell 1,000 books for under $100. So that's at booklaunchers.com/sell books. And then the other place, and if you get that email, by the way, you'll be subscribed to our bi-weekly launch letter. You can hit reply to that, and all of those go to me. I like to keep in contact with folks. So yeah, that's the direct line to me that way. Also, I have a YouTube channel, which is my passion. I love filming YouTube videos and sharing all kinds of tips.
Fun.
So booklaunchers.tv, please subscribe. And that's the best place to just kind of chat with me because I'm very quick in responding to the comments on my YouTube videos. So if you want to say hello, that's probably the easiest way to do it.
And as always, you can find those links in the episode notes. We'll be right back with Julie Broad in our rapid fire questions. You have big ideas and dreams, but you're not sure how to make them a reality. Maybe you're filled with fear or you're overwhelmed. Well, the team at Jumblethink is here to help you. We have worked with hundreds of individuals and businesses to take those ideas, take those dreams, and get them into the real world. We would love to be your partner on your journey of changing your big idea and dream from a concept and into a reality. All you have to do is swing on over to jumblethink.com/helpme. That's jumblethink.com/helpme to learn more about how we can help you turn that idea and dream into a reality so you can change the world with your message, idea, or product. We look forward to hearing from you and starting the journey of turning your idea and dream into a reality. Now let's join our rapid fire questions with Julie Broad. We are back with Julie Broad and our rapid fire questions. Julie, are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
All set.
All right. So the first question is, what is one tip you would give someone with a big idea or dream and they don't know where to start?
Ooh, I would say go find somebody who is doing what you want to do and learn what they've done to get where they are.
What's one change you'd like to see in the world?
Uh, I think just kindness. I think if we are all kind, even on a daily basis, smile more, say hello more, I think that will, change a lot of things for everyone.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I think I'd like my legacy to be that I left. It's so cliche sounding, so I hesitate, but that I've left the world a better place. I gave more than I took.
Where do you find inspiration?
My grandma.
Okay. All right.
My grandma is 100, and
Oh, wow.
one of the things that she always said to me, I would say, "Have a great day, grandma," as you're leaving. And she would say, "It's my own fault if I don't."
Oh, wow.
And I really take that to heart. I have, as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of ups and downs, and I really try to find the good in everything and accept those things that I can't change and change. If there's something I can change, then I'm just going to get to work and change it.
What is one book you think every dreamer or entrepreneur should read and why?
One book, huh? You're talking to somebody who reads like thousands and thousands of books. Oh my goodness. I love The War of Art
Okay.
from Stephen Pressfield.
All right.
It's really about fighting that resistance and fighting the fear.
I'm not familiar with that book, so I'm looking forward to checking that out.
Easy, quick read. You'll love it.
Cool. Thanks for the suggestion. What is one tool that is significant for the success of your business?
My brain. Without my brain, my business would not exist today. Any other tool is irrelevant
Right.
without being able to think, because it's problem solving. I mean, if you run a business, your job is to solve problems.
Yeah.
You're solving your employees' problems, your clients' problems, and so without my brain, there would be no business.
What is one habit you find helpful in your life as an entrepreneur?
I think the most important habit I have is that every night before I stop work, I plan my next day.
Okay.
And so I leave some open time because there's always fires that come up, but I have clear outcomes for every day. I have a bit of a structure to my day. I know when I'm going to work out. I know when I'm going to write. I know when I'm going to do client calls, like whatever it is, it's structured. And then every week I have the same thing. And I do this all pen and paper because I find writing it down really helps kind of take it from my brain and put it on the paper. But I also have a loose structure for every week. Like, what's the most important things that I need to accomplish? What are the most important meetings? And it's all laid out for me before I'm done for the week. My next week is kind of laid out loosely, and then I plan every day the night before.
That leads perfectly into our next question. How do you start and finish your day?
Things are kind of a wild ride now we were talking off recording, but I have a 14-month-old.
Yeah.
So life's kind of turned upside down. You find that the control you used to have over your day does get shifted.
Right.
And people say get up before your son. Well, my son is very good at like waking up at 5 a.m. and I'm not really equipped to wake up at 4:40 or 4:30 just to have some time before him. So but I start my day. I have a green drink. I drink a big glass of water, and I have a green drink that I drink. And it's just like, that's one simple thing, but it helps ground me. It helps kind of rehydrate and get things functioning for the day. And then I do like to work out. If it's my workout day, then I usually go straight to CrossFit after kind of spending a little bit of time with my son. At night, I just wind down. I read a little bit, watch a little bit of TV, and my day is already planned because I've quit work. I usually try to quit, 5 o'clock if I can, and wind down for the evening with my husband. So that's kind of the start and the finish. It's not very exciting.
If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what do you think you'd be doing?
This is a weird question because years ago, like I was asked this and I never would have predicted what I'd be doing today. My husband's pursuing a career as an actor and I'm running a company that's way more fun than any other company I've ever run. So it's really hard to say what I would be doing, but I'll just throw something out there. I'd be traveling the world, writing travel guides.
What is one dream you are still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
I want to speak a second language. I've started to learn French. I'm Canadian, so they made us take French, but you're forced to do it. So I didn't like it. And then years ago, I spent a couple months in Guatemala living with a Guatemalan family, and I started to learn Spanish, but I haven't done much with it. So that's something I do definitely want to do is become fluent in another language.
As we wrap up today's episode, I want to give you a chance to give us one last thought to leave us with.
I have my own little saying, and it's the missing piece is always action. Okay. And really, you're never going to know exactly what to do. So just figure out what is the next thing that you need to do and just go do it and stop questioning, stop worrying, just go and take that next step. And it's amazing that things will show up in front of you that make things more and more clear the more steps you take.
Julia, it's been a lot of fun having you on the podcast. Thanks for taking time out to share your story. Give us some amazing insights into the world of writing and publishing and how we can use it as a tool for what we're doing in our businesses.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Once again, we want to thank today's guest, Julie Broad, for taking time out, sharing her story, and giving us insights into the world of helping authors write their books. As always, you can find links to Julie in the episode notes. On Thursday's episode, I'm diving deep into the world of motivation and why we do what we do as entrepreneurs. It's going to be super fun, so make sure to check out Thursday's episode all about motivation. My challenge for today as we wrap up today's episode is I want to encourage you, get around other people that will challenge you, that will push you to chase your big ideas and dreams, that will make you question the things that you accept as normal, and help you get out of your shell and into a new reality. Hopefully a reality where your dreams and your ideas are becoming a reality. Now it's up to you. Go chase those big ideas and dreams and change the world around you.
mères de famille, les enfants peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.